Nobody ever snitched on me, and I never had an issue with him again. What is the worst thing you have done in the heat of the moment? Texting when I'm angry. The anger goes away, the text remains for eternity. Probably the best indicator that I am a mature adult is when I reach the stage of typing up a comment and then saying to myself, that is not a work of genius, you are drunk. Delete it. So many fewer regrets the next day. Following Ernest Hemingway's advice to write drunk, edit sober, I developed the habit of opening a notepad and typing my works of genius into it instead of online. Reading them later, I have found that about 1 out of 10 is pretty good. The rest are horribly embarrassing and get deleted with a sigh of relief that they were never made public. When my ex of 4 years ghosted me, it was so incredibly hard for me not to text him with a piece of my mind. I would write and delete so many texts, but was always nervous I'd accidentally hit send. Thus was the birth of my texts to nowhere page on my notepad. It can be so cathartic to write it all down. Sometimes when I'm feeling mad about something all over again, I reread some of them. Once I told the judge, "Give me your best shot." He then gave me 10 added days for contempt of court. Somebody replied, "It's kind of worth it." I was reading about one of the prisoners at the jail I work at. There's this ancient skeleton of a man. In his transcript, the judge said his crimes were so bad he was tempted to give him the Queen's pleasure, which in Australia was an old sentence where only the Queen herself can allow your release. Said prisoner went to the judge and said, "Well, do it then." And he is so salty about the fact he's gonna rot away in jail forever, and it makes me happy. I made an impulse buy late at night during the height of the pandemic, a rowing machine that was a little too expensive for my apartment. I thought I was going to get in shape, but it's just been collecting dust in a corner. I see this happen a lot. Had a friend in college got blackout drunk and ordered a juicer. I had no idea until it arrived at his apartment. He bought a big bag of oranges and made us all screwdrivers. I went out for a friend's birthday, and another friend was being a real butt and was being aggressive towards me. I called him out on it and we ended up fighting outside the bar in a parking lot. He was upset because I made the girl he was interested in laugh. I was just trying to be a good friend and entertain her while he was making drinks. Then later, we were in a booth and I was between him and someone else. He kept talking to that person, but would dig his elbow in my chest or kind of push me out of the way. I let it slide a few times, but the third or fourth time I told him that if he kept at it we would have an issue, and he invited me outside. Haven't spoken to him in years, but he was like a brother. Damn you Navy strength rum. My oldest son was still a baby and I was a fresh teenage dad. It was the middle of the night and he was screaming. I was sleep deprived and I was getting screamed at in my ear. And he was sick and cranky and nothing would help. I went to move him and his baby fist hit me in the eye or something. But either way, I swatted it away really fast and hard and he cried even louder. I kept rocking him and crying and holding him even after he fell asleep. I felt so bad. Almost 9 years later and I still feel awful about it. Somebody replied, "My kid had colic. She'd scream from noon to midnight. No amount of walking, shushing, gripe water, feeding, changing, burping, or change of scenery helped. We were told babies just cry. One day, she started screaming and I lost it. I had been up all night with her, so I was exhausted. My husband was at work. I was alone in a foreign country with no one to reach out to for support. I just wanted her to be quiet. I needed her to be quiet. The anger, the helplessness, and the desperation I felt at that moment were terrifying. I forced myself to lay her down in her crib and walk away because I knew I'd do something terrible if I didn't. I walked out of my apartment, sat down in front of the door so no one could get in, called my husband, and told him in no uncertain terms that I was not okay and I needed him home now. After I hung up, I took a deep breath, walked back inside, and held my screaming infant until my husband got home. In the end, she was fine, I was fine, we were all fine. I did what they tell you to do. Put them down in a safe place and walk away. I have never been to the absolute breaking point again in my life, but I will tell you I understand why people shake babies. It is not a malicious want to harm. It is a primal, deep, all-encompassing need for them to just be quiet. I can't explain it to anyone who hasn't been in that place. I wouldn't be able to explain it to myself if I hadn't been there. When I was in 10th grade, a classmate of mine pissed on my shoes. I didn't snap right then and there, but he made fun of my looks a couple minutes later. I completely lost my cool, grabbed him by the neck and slammed his head into a steel beam. In hindsight, I realized that I could have killed him or disabled him for life, but luckily he got away with a bad concussion. Somebody replied, I had a similar incident in 10th grade. An older kid used to break my balls purely because I was friends with his friend, my neighbor. They were jocks, I was not. His favorite was to rip my backpack off my back. One day, I was in a super pissed mood because of something teenage angst? I don't remember what, but he came down the hall, calling me names. I told him to get off. He laughed and went to grab at my bag. I swung the bag at him, hitting him in the side of the head, and sending him into the lockers with the other side of his head. He was out cold on the floor. Nobody ever snitched on me, and I never had an issue with him again. He was still ass to everybody else possible, but not me. I was probably 10 to 12 years old, hanging out with the neighborhood kids, one of whom was a few years younger. He was being annoying as hell and wouldn't stop, so after a few minutes of constant annoyance, I threw my scooter at him, hitting his head. No serious injuries, but he needed a few stitches. I knew I messed it up the instant the scooter left my hands. My dad and I got into an argument when I was 6 years old, so I wrote my very specific, very rare first name across the side of his brand new car with a stone. When he asked me if I'd done it, I, of course, denied it profusely. I am talking Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice level of acting. I should have won a goddamned Oscar. So he sort of laughed and said, "You're telling me someone else came up to my car and scratched your name across it?" I denied it for a whole afternoon while, in fairness to him, my father giggled to himself. I couldn't figure out why he was giggling. Surely he was going to skin me alive later and wear me around town of a cold evening. He said he couldn't help laughing because the lie was so ludicrous, but I stuck by it so resolutely that it was one of the funniest situations he'd ever been in. He knew he should punish me, but it was also so marvelous he couldn't bring himself to be angry. I'm nearly 36. Every time he gets a new car now he says, "You're not mad at me for something, are you?" Before he shows it to me. I guess I earned that. Somebody replied, a friend of mine once scratched his and my name into his dad's car. His dad went ballistic. He came over to our house really upset because my friend said that I had done it. Of course I denied it all. But they didn't believe me and I was dragged over there to apologize to my friend and his mother for scratching the car and getting him into trouble. On the way over we passed the car and my parents realized that my name was spelled wrong and they knew I knew how to spell my name. The dad then went ballistic for a second time. When I was about 8 or 9, my mum was talking to my teacher. She worked at the school and wanted to talk about something, so they sent me to wait in the car. Off I trot with the keys, and get into the driver's seat. It was an automatic. I turned the car on and put it in reverse. And the car starts rolling. I panicked, tried to hit the brake, but Mum had put a steering wheel lock around the brake pedal. Brilliant move, Mum. So I hit the accelerator instead, and yeeted the car into another teacher's car. Did a few $1,000s worth of damage to the other car. Mum's car got a few scratches because Toyota Camrys were absolute tanks. My mum still works at the school and I visited a few years ago. We have to go see Mrs. M. Oh God. We get there, Mrs. M sees me, smiles and turns to tell the story to her entire grade 5 class. There's no ego hit quite like having a room full of 10-year-olds laughing at you. My parents were tailors and they used to do a lot of work from home. They had really big, heavy metal scissors they used to use. I was very young. Under 10 for sure. My older brother did something to piss me off. I grabbed the scissor near me and threw it at him. It missed his eyes by a small fraction. He went ballistic on why would I do something like this. 25 plus years later the memory still makes me sad how close I was to seriously injuring or killing my brother. Somebody replied, I was very young, 6 or 7. My even younger brother was looking at the sky through an empty paper towel tube. For no reason other than curiosity I dropped a pencil in the tube. Fortunately nothing resulted, but then I thought about it and my bonehead maneuver traumatized me more than him. I was being lightly scolded by my boss, and instead of rolling with it, I got pissed and told him, "You know what, damn you," and left. I was not in a financial situation to quit at the time, and regretted my decision the entire elevator ride out of there, but looking back now it's easy to say worth it. Somebody replied, I was getting a write-up and essentially told my boss I don't get paid enough to be held to the standard I was in trouble regarding, so I'd be stepping off my additional duties. I got the raise though. I'm a very peaceful person. I don't freak out and I have never been in a physical fight with anyone. But I was so embarrassed to tell my friends. This isn't that crazy, but my old company spoiled me and my new one did not. We had to buy all our own supplies without being reimbursed, which now I completely understand is a work from home thing, but this was new to me and I did not want to work from home to get behind. I was pissed off that my training documents were 60 pages long and that I had to print them without reimbursement, because I had to print like 500 pages of nonsense. I got so mad, I smashed my printer with my foot and kept smashing it, and then it hurt my foot and cut me, so I threw the whole printer at the wall. The damage to the wall was pretty minimal, but the printer shattered into like 40,000 pieces that we found more of after moving. I thought my boyfriend would be so mad at me, but he said, "I'm glad you finally allowed yourself to be mad about something. I don't care about the printer or the wall. Are you okay?" Now we laugh and say, "Okay, just don't break that too." I used to go to the gym and sneak into the health suite, sauna, steam room, hot tub, without paying. I got caught and had to pay on the way out. The manager was nice and said, "Look, just pay next time, okay?" I said I won't get caught next time. She said, "Consider your membership cancelled." Back when I was 18, I was single-handedly keeping the household afloat. I was working 2 jobs and taking 22 credits at school. I was taking care of my younger sisters pretty much completely. Taking them to the doctor, dentist, orthodontist, therapist, school back and forth, helping with homework, going to parent-teacher conferences, going to volunteering obligations, making all of their meals, cleaning the house, grocery shopping, taking care of the pets, all of the laundry, everything. Then, on top of that, I was also taking care of our mother. Taking her to and from doctors, bringing her medications and meals, begging her to get out of bed and go on a walk or at least sit on the deck for a little sun. I was getting about 2 to 5 hours of sleep at night. I was burning out fast. My little sister, 13 at the time, wasn't helping with anything. I could see she was going down a dark path. Drugs, alcohol, sneaking out, etc. She was making things more difficult. I felt so helpless because I could keep the household running but I couldn't help her. One day I was begging her to just take the trash out of her room. Not even clean the room, just take the trash out. There was food in there that was rotting and making it smell. I just couldn't find the time to do it for her. It ended up turning into a massive blowout fight. At the end she said, "Well, maybe I should just end myself," and, before I had even fully processed what she said, I replied, "Well, it would certainly make things easier for me." I didn't sleep more than 45 minutes at a time for almost a month after that. I just kept going into her room to check on her and make sure she hadn't done anything. My sister is doing better now, but I can never forget what I said and I will never be able to forgive myself for it. Back in college, during the first week at a new school, I was on my computer waiting for my evening class to start. Someone asked if they could use my computer to log into their student account to see where their class was. I let them do it and had my Facebook account open in the other tab. They updated my Facebook status to something very racist, thinking they were funny, but forgot to close out of their school account. Once I figured out what they did, thanks to a furious phone call from my mother, I used their account to drop all of the classes they signed up for. I was a teenager, helping my family clear out our basement, sorting old clothes and toys to donate or dispose of. My brother and I were horsing around when I spotted an absolutely ancient water gun. I picked it up, swiping away cobwebs, and what do you know, water was sloshing around the reservoir, so I pumped it a couple times and sprayed my little brother directly in his face. He screamed instantly, and not the fun "ha you sprayed me with water" scream. The water smelled like mold and death, left over from the last time we played with the guns, which was years ago. He got a bacterial infection in both eyes, cycled antibiotics and came away from it whole. I got flack about this at every family gathering and will as long as both of us are around. Thanks for watching. What's the worst thing you've ever done in the heat of the moment? Let me know in the comments below. Obviously the best thing you've ever done is subscribe. If not, give it a go, and I'll see you next time for more curated daily content.